Hello and welcome to the Orange County Taxpayers Association OCTax Talk. I'm Carolyn Cavechi, President and CEO of OCTax, and I am really pleased that we have with us today Mike Kraman from the Transportation Corridor Agencies, the Chief Executive Officer, right?
That's right.
Well, thank you so much for being here
Carolyn,
with us today.
It's great to be here with you. Great to have this opportunity to speak to OCTax.
Great, thank you. So why don't you start off, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you ended up here in Orange County with the Transportation Corridor Agencies.
Wow, how far do you want me to go back?
Yeah, not too far back.
Okay.
5 years.
So I'm a civil engineer by training, and I've worked for a number of consulting firms here in Orange County. Moffitt & Nichol, who just got the big 405 job with the design build team, and HNTB, one of the really great firms here in Orange County. And I finished an assignment with them. I was the design manager for the 405 widening through the Sepulveda Pass, another big design build job. And my old friend Tom Margro was the chief executive officer at TCA, and I had got to know Tom when earlier in my career I was the project engineer for an extension of the BART system up in the Bay Area. So I had been talking to Tom, and he and I worked out that I came to the agency as its chief engineer about 4 years ago. And then Tom retired, and I was able to move up to the chief executive officer position. I've been in that position now for a little under 3 years.
Okay, great. And you're enjoying it, obviously.
I am. It's a challenge. It's a great agency. It does a lot of things. I like the foundations of the agency, very creative innovation agency, but to be honest, it takes everything I've learned in my career to really help us step up to the challenges that we have.
Well, it's nice that we have, I think, someone in the management executive level now that has the engineering background, because that isn't always the case. So I think you've come at it with a really interesting perspective, which is really good. Well, if we can talk a little bit about the toll roads, and I know we refer to it as the TCA or the Transportation Corridor Agencies, but a lot of your consumers talk about it as the toll roads. We hear a lot at the Taxpayers Organization, oh, that's terrible. We paid for those toll roads with our taxpayer dollars, and not quite true. So can you go back a little bit before your time and give us some history of why they were built and how they were built and who financed it?
Sure. The concept for these roads was really in the county plans for over 30 years. And in the late 80s, when the state and the federal government were both struggling with continuing to fund the construction of our transportation infrastructure, Orange County, again, creativity, innovation, came up with the idea that we would create an agency, a joint powers authority, with the purpose of building these, what were planned as freeways, part of the state highway system here in Orange County. And what came out of the formation of that was, in order to be able to pay for that, is where that concept of toll roads came from. So it's a combination of development impact fees as well as toll revenue bonds that were used to finance the construction of, at this point, 51 miles of road. And that's interesting. Those are private bonds, privately financed bonds. So it's kind of a public-private partnership, but no taxpayer dollars went into the construction of these roads. They were funded through the toll revenue bonds. And now we collect tolls on the road for the purpose of paying off the debt that was incurred to build these roads. And of course, we still have some more to build as we look forward.
Right, user fees, and OCTax is very supportive of a user fee program versus a taxpayer program. And unfortunately, the state of California, as you know, our infrastructure is just not getting the attention it deserves, and we're kind of in this position now that Orange County has been very innovative with this.
It's interesting too, because it is a user fee. Our customers make a choice every day to do these roads, but it's important in the way this system was set up that they do have that choice. For example, the 241, so as you're coming along the 91, you can duck onto the 241 there, or you can continue and use the 55 and the 5. So drivers have a choice, maybe not as obvious as on the 91 Express, where you can make the decision right there to jump in the toll lanes, but our roads parallel the very congested freeways in Orange County, and people have that choice for a congestion-free ride, a very dependable time-saving ride, or they can use and pay the toll,
Right.
or they can use the freeways and not pay a toll.
Well, it's interesting, and I know, especially coming in from the 91 down the 55 and then to the 5 south, a vast majority of those people who are sitting in bumper-to-bumper traffic are actually heading to Irvine and south. I do remember that statistic. So I'm looking forward to the 91 connector. Personally myself.
That will be a great addition, you know, particularly since on the 91 Express, Riverside County, of course, is extending those express lanes to I-15, and that with our project, which will allow people to connect directly from the 241 into the 91 Express lanes, that's going to be
and vice
great.
versa from the 241, and hopefully that'll be clearing up, I think, a lot of traffic on the 55 and the 5. So
it will.
Yeah, it will be good. Well, so let's talk about what's left to complete, because I know the system isn't finished, and the completion, and I always say the completion of the 241, not the extension of the 241.
Right.
But the completion of the 241 has been you know, a huge issue in Orange County for many years. And the priority has been to connect to the 5 at the south and kind of complete that loop. So let's talk about some of the difficulties, because that has been really a horrific process for the last decade, maybe, if not more.
Well, at least 15 years that kind of battle has been going on. You know, unfortunately, our agency is sometimes more famous for the road we haven't built than the road we have built, but we've made some great progress on that, so I'd love to tell you about that. Over the past 2 years, with the setbacks that had occurred over our history, the Coastal Commission,
lawsuits,
the 5 lawsuits, the Regional Water Quality Control Board, the issues associated with the state park and some of the pristine environmental areas in South County have really made it difficult for us to go forward. And that isn't getting any easier with the agenda in Sacramento and what we're trying to do here. The environmental groups have a very strong input into how transportation infrastructure is able to be constructed in this state. And quite honestly, with the way we had that system planned, our ability to permit that project, particularly the coastal permit, was impossible. So we began, you know, talking to everybody. That's one thing I've learned from my career in that history, working on some of those big projects, is you need to be talking to everybody, people who are in favor of your project and people who are opposed to your project. And quite honestly, all projects are better from that dialogue. So as we started that dialogue, we reached out to stakeholders, you know, the business community, the environmental community, residents, people most affected by the traffic. So we worked through that process, and one of the steps we took was what was called a community ascertainment study, where we did deep one-on-one interviews with people in the community to see, how does this transportation problem affect your everyday life? What is it that you see about I-5 congestion? What's important to you to solve that? And so we heard some interesting things. Certainly we validated the fact that congestion on the I-5 freeway in South County is a huge regional transportation problem. They also said we'd like to see OCTA, Caltrans, and TCA work together to talk to us about how to improve transportation, because they don't see it as a single project solution, but want to see the whole all of the plans that are going into improving mobility in South County, and understand that in order to make their decision about how to proceed in solving that problem. So we worked through that process. Another thing that we heard is that, you know, TCA, you really need to involve the environmental groups and Surfrider in your discussions. You know, people see what our challenges have been, and I don't think they would have thought well of us if we hadn't taken that into consideration as we move forward.
And they were willing to come to the table to work on a solution versus just coming to the table to try to kill it?
So we started the meetings and we didn't know the answer to that question. So we invited people here. They were certainly willing to come and talk to us, okay? And at some of those early meetings, it was well established that they indeed did recognize that there was a transportation problem that needed to be solved. And what we found is our differences were in how to solve that. So over a period of a couple of years, those discussions progressed. We talked about a lot of different ideas. How can technology help us? How can we improve transit? What are other elements of a transportation package that would need to be considered in solving this problem? Ultimately, we got to the point where we were able to start negotiations into how to settle the 5 lawsuits and then move forward. So it was important to them that we not disturb certain pristine areas, environmental areas such as Don O'Neill Land Conservancy, San Onofre State Beach State Park.
The creek.
We had already come to the San Mateo Creek, exactly. We had come to the conclusion that we would never be able to get permits to do that. So it sort of lined up with where we were going to go. At that point, what became important to us is, okay, if we're going to go a different direction, if we don't get some certainty here, they'll just find a way to oppose any new idea we come up with. So the settlement agreement, which the Foothill Eastern Board approved in November, actually says now that transportation corridor agencies will not fund or construct a road in those pristine environmental areas, Don O'Neill Land Conservancy, San Onofre State Beach, and some of those areas of the San Mateo watershed. The Environmental Coalition, and this is a very complete, comprehensive, there are 12 environmental groups in Surfrider, State Parks Foundation, NRDC, Audubon, Sierra Club, Endangered Habitat. So this was all of the big hitters who over the last 15 years had been fighting very hard to us, and the Attorney General, Native American Heritage Commission, Parks Commission as well, agreed that if we do not fund or construct a project in those areas, they will not oppose a project by TCA to complete the 241 extension to I-5.
Okay, and you had to back away though from a couple other, the Tesoro extension now is not going to go forward, is that correct? That was a partial completion of it.
Right. So this deals with from Oso Parkway, our current terminus, all the way to I-5. And this will enable us to incorporate, as we look forward to what our options are and how to define a new project, we'll incorporate the work that Rancho Mission Viejo has had to do as a part of their environmental document to construct an arterial there in essentially the same alignment as the toll road. So what we do will be compatible, consistent with that, so that we will have, as we do our work forward, we're looking for a complete solution all the way from Oso to I-5.
So what does that mean for the completion project? How possible is it to go from Oso Parkway and connect to the 5 by not touching or going through what you've now agreed with the environmental groups?
Right. So we concurrently or in parallel have started a public process of work with South County electeds as well as the publics on what are the specific ideas that we can do. And that process has yielded 16 different ideas for how to improve transportation in South County. Some of those are alignments that would extend the 241 and connect it to I-5. All of those ideas at this point are things we've been bringing in and looking at what are the ideas of the possibilities of how to solve these transportation problems. What we will do now is we will initiate the formal environmental review process in order to look at those in the framework that's outlined under CEQA, to start to define our purpose and need, and then to narrow those alternatives into the best solutions for that, and then involve the public stakeholders. We'll pull the resource agencies in now to look at those solutions and find the best solution.
So there is an alignment possible.
There are a number of ideas that were proposed as part of that process. And as part of that outreach, our getmovingoc.com website has all of the information that we gained from those public meetings, and it's on there. We had our first public meeting back in June and a second one in October to work through those issues with the public and get their input, which now leads us into the formal process to review and evaluate those ideas.
So your next steps then are you're taking those ideas and you're going into an official process. So timing-wise, what are you looking at?
Well, at our board meeting, our December board meeting, which just occurred December 8th, the board approved us and provided funding for us to initiate that process. So we are putting contracts in place and we'll kick off work, literally the first of the year to start looking at that. So we're very excited. The settlement agreement combined with this new look and these new ideas it was a game changer.
Yeah.
It doesn't make it easy. I mean, what was impossible is now, I would say, very, very hard. Very important for us to work with the stakeholders in South County, but also the region in order to solve this regional transportation problem, but also those cities, those residents, those areas that are will be most affected, to make sure through the CEQA process that we do evaluate those impacts, we mitigate those impacts, we avoid impacts where we can.
Well, in OCTax's opinion, the completion of the 241 really isn't just a South County issue. It's a Southern California regional issue as far as trying to move through Orange County and through Southern California to gridlock through the 5 as you do down there. It's a safety issue, but it's really a regional transportation issue as well.
I couldn't agree with you more in that lack of redundancy, because our county is kind of like an inverted triangle. And so I think we have to be very judicious in the way we complete that infrastructure because of, as you mentioned, safety concerns. There is a need for redundancy, and it's an important Southern California regional route between the border and the ports, between San Diego and LA. It's a tremendously important transportation corridor.
Well, in South Orange County too, it's interesting, those of us who reside and work up more in the central Orange County area, our roads are built on a grid system. So if you need to get off a freeway and be able to move, you can do that up here. South Orange County was not built on a grid system. There really isn't a parallel road system that people can get off on and run parallel to the 5. The roads just aren't built on a grid system, which is kind of a hiccup for transportation, I think, down there as well. It adds just another element to the pot that you have to deal with. Exactly,
because the roads that exist, but also the topography really defines what we can and can't do. And this is a difficult area to complete, as we've seen with the struggles.
So look in your crystal ball. If you could predict timing-wise, so you're going to start the process, how long do you think it's going to take to come to a consensus on a solution and an alignment? Obviously the construction is past that, but what do you think?
So a CEQA NEPA process, because we'll do both the state and the federal process. TCA will be the lead agency for CEQA. Caltrans will be the lead agency for NEPA, and that's a 5-year process. In this day and age, to complete a complex environmental document is a 5-year process. So we will do everything we can to streamline that, to use some of the new ideas that have come out of the FAST Act and that are being considered in Sacramento to streamline that process. We will take advantage of all of that in order to do it as quickly as we can. But the reality is it's a 5-year process.
Well, OCTax wishes you nothing but the best, and it's something that we've been supportive of and testified at Coastal Commission hearings and regional water quality hearings over the years, my predecessor and myself. So very supportive of the completion, and we wish you the best and your board the best in getting this done.
We appreciate that very much, and the support that we do get. And It will be very, very
Good.
hard, so we will need
We
that
will be
continued
there
support.
for you. Thank you so much for being with us
Thank
here
you, Carolyn.
today.
It's my pleasure and the agency's pleasure
Thank
to
you.
be here.
Good. Well, and you can get more information on OCTax, sign up for our Proposition 13 newsletter, find out about our education and taxpayer events. You can go to our website at octax.org or our Facebook site at the Orange County Taxpayers Association. We'll see you next time on OCTax Talk.